Përshëndetje të dashur ndjekës dhe mirë se vini në podcastin ton të radhës RISHTAZI. Sot në studio kam kënaqësinë të kem ambasadorin e Suedisë, zotin Sohlström, i cili është një ambasador i ri në Maqedoninë e Veriut. Megjithatë, për disa muaj ka pas mundësi që të udhtoj, ta shoh vendin, por do t'jap edhe një perspektivë të asaj si një mbështetës, siç është Suedia të Maqedonisë së Veriut për integrimet europiane, se çfarë në fakt duhet bërë dhe sa e rëndësishme është integrimi. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for this interview and for this podcast.
No, thank you for having me.
I just made an introduction in Albanian, just said that you are here in our country only a couple of months, but you have visited the country, so you have the flavor of the country. And we're going to discuss, of course, about the relations between two countries, but importance of EU integration for our country. But first of all, let me ask you, how do you assess the current state of relations between Sweden and North Macedonia?
Thanks for the question, and thanks for having me on the show, and it's nice to see you again, Nassim. I look forward to our cooperation. I have been here in Skopje, in North Macedonia, as the ambassador of the Kingdom of Sweden for 10 months now, so I'm kind of wrapping up my first year, almost, in this beautiful country. It has been a good time over the past couple of days to reflect a little bit about the year that has passed, the work we have carried out at the embassy, and also the overall, I would say, status of the relations between Sweden and North Macedonia. And in short, they are excellent. They're strong. They're 5 out of 5. We work together on a range of issues, political issues, where Sweden continues to be one of the major supporters of this country's journey towards the European Union, hopefully in the shape of a full membership of the Union as soon as possible. Recognizing the fact that we live in an unpredictable world and that we're both members of NATO, we also work on defense and security issues. On the economic side, we continue to support the Swedish companies that are already here. We try to attract even more Swedish companies here and to promote more trade between the two countries in a way to promote growth, innovation, and business and employment in both countries. And then we have this fantastic people-to-people contacts between our two countries. That's culture, sport, tourism, family ties, parliamentarians, that are driven not least by a very strong and active diaspora in Sweden. So it's a very active, it's a very positive relationship, and it's a very, very good one. It's a pleasure to be the ambassador of Sweden in this country.
I mean, I'm going to ask about these issues, but first of all, since you mentioned the people, and actually that's the most important when two countries have a good relation. But you have been around the country, you have visited a lot of cities. So what's your flavor of the country? How can you describe North Macedonia to someone that probably it will come first time from Sweden?
Well, it's a beautiful country. As you said, I've been here for 10 months, but some weeks ago in May, we tried to do something rather special. Normally, we're based with the embassy here in Skopje, me and the embassy. But in May, we did a bit of a project called Embassy on the Road. And then during one very busy week, and if you follow me or your listeners and viewers are following me on social media, and if not, they should. They can see photos of that one.
Now,
No. So there you can see photos of that one. But we traveled around the whole country. We visited the 12th largest cities in the country, and we visited companies, mayors, organizations, women's organizations, environmental organizations, youth, Europe houses, and other actors that are one way or another involved in the strong partnership between Sweden and North Macedonia. That was a fantastic way for me to see the country, a fantastic way to show people in this country that our embassy is present, not only in Skopje, but in the whole country, and to learn more about the fantastic work that these organizations and companies do. But it also was an opportunity for me to speak more directly to young people, not least people living in cities that is not Skopje, where I live and where I work most of the time, and to get an even better impression of North Macedonia in 2026, where we're at and where we're going. In short, it's a fantastic country, beautiful nature, generous, kind, pleasant people, both my counterparts in the government offices and the organizations that we work here in Skopje, but also wherever I travel, warm welcome, pleasant conversation, and an openness for dialogue with partners like Sweden. So that I would say, beautiful country, beautiful people.
So when you have this atmosphere, of course, with people and with the government, in which areas do you see the greatest potential of strengthening the cooperation between two countries. I mean, maybe more focus on economy, because you mentioned that there are some Swedish companies here, but still there are more possibilities. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's true, and that's the correct analysis and the analysis that we make as well. Our political partnership is very strong. We have a good dialogue between our ministers and the ministers here. On the parliamentary front, we have a strong exchange between the Riksdag, our parliament in Sweden, and the Sobrani here, where also Mr. Speaker, Mr. Gashi, is also active and supportive. So on the political side, it's a very strong partnership. The people-to-people contacts, those are strong and active, and there are the role of our embassies mostly to support and facilitate those contacts, but not to drive them, because they drive themselves. The area, or the two areas, I would say, where we see potential for an even deeper partnership, and where we will try to make an extra push this year. One of them is the economic relations, as you alluded to. There are some companies here, but we would like that list to grow even further in the coming years. And that's something we're working on together also with the Swedish Macedonian Chamber of Commerce, a new entity that was founded only some months ago, but is already making waves here in Skopje and around the country. So that's one side. We would like to see more companies here, but we would also like to see Macedonian entrepreneurs and companies seek out possibilities in Sweden, both in terms of expansion and trade and innovation, to make those links. Stockholm, my hometown and our capital, is an interesting place right now. It's the capital of capital, as the Economist magazine puts it. It's a place where small companies can grow. Perhaps interesting avenue for companies there.
Let me ask you exactly about this, because we in our country speak about the economy, and there is a problem in terms of to develop the country even more. But when you hear things like this, that you can come in a very developed country like Sweden, and if you are a small company from this country and then go there, that's a great news. So how that can be possible? So how can we explain to a small companies here that it's easy to go to Sweden and to develop ideas there?
Well, I mean, on a very physical level, it's extremely easy to get to Sweden, because thanks to Wizz Air, we now have direct flights to Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö. You can fly different ways too, but those are the direct ways to get there. It's easy to travel to Sweden, and as a good ambassador of Sweden, I would also like to say this month, June, July, is a fantastic opportunity to go to Sweden. To go to Sweden as a tourist, discover all the country, but also to get inspired by the business climate, the innovation mood that you have in Sweden, and not least in Stockholm. As I said, it's the greatest concentration of unicorns and successful startups in northern Sweden. So it's an interesting place to get inspired for. If you are an entrepreneur setting up an operation here in North Macedonia and you're seeking capital and investors, it's also a possibility to attract capital. And if you are a company here in this country wanting to export also beyond the region to reach further north towards the north of Europe as well, Sweden is also an interesting export market. We are a country of 10 million consumers in Sweden, but Stockholm and Sweden is also a good gateway to the whole Nordic-Baltic regions, and suddenly, boom, you're more than 20 million consumers that could be interested in exploring and discovering products from these countries. So for many reasons, I think entrepreneurs and companies here should have a very careful look at Sweden also as a port to more business and innovation and growth.
When you talk about this, of course, it's great. But if you are part of the EU, this would be even more easier. Yeah? Yes. So in that sense, how important do you see the fact that Macedonia should become EU member state as soon as possible? Because this is one of the topics that, of course, you are involved in your job.
Of course, I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to complete my answer to a previous question on that one, because we focus now on the economy. I would like to also mention, aside from economy and stronger economic ties, trade, investment and growth between our country, a second priority would be to further deepen the already good but still relatively new partnership we have on the side of defense and security, which is an area that we're exploring together with the colleagues at the Ministry of Defense here, recognizing the fact that we are now members of NATO, and that, of course, Europe and the world is in a predictable phase right now, where we all, as NATO members, as allies, all need to step up further.
I probably will come back on the NATO because it is important in the geopolitical sense, because what is going on right now, I think the countries need more ally, and since you say that the both countries are great in cooperation, that's a good news. But let me refer to EU integration.
Yes.
Our country had some setbacks and problems in a way of getting as much faster as it should in EU integration. But how do you think how Sweden should support EU enlargement or integration of North Macedonia to EU?
No, that's what we do, and Sweden has supported for a very long time enlargement as a policy, partly because we're an enlargement country ourselves. Sweden joined in 1995 and so on. We had a referendum in 1994 on a decision to join the union or not. A referendum there where I, by the way, was not allowed to vote because I was not yet 18 at the time. But I'm very grateful that my elders in Sweden made a decision to join the European Union. The margin that where we joined to join the union then in the referendum was not that big, but it was a clear majority, but it was not that big. But let me tell you one thing: since we joined the European Union, there has been absolutely no regrets, and the support for EU membership is stable across political parties, across generations, across regions, and over time. It was a good decision. It was a good decision for Sweden, our economy, politically, for our societies, for our culture, for our youth, for our students. So it's in the light of that experience, our own personal experience and my old lived experience, that I say that this is a good decision, it's a good aim, and it's something worth fighting for. Marathons are long, they are hard, they take effort, and sometimes you want to give up, but you shouldn't, because it's hard, because it's important.
And when you say this, of course...
Sorry, can I just, you ask me specifically how Sweden can support
them? In that sense, how can you help to probably overcome this, I will use the word setback, but also maintain the momentum that North Macedonia should have in integration. And this question rises up here because of the bilateral issues that our country have with the neighboring country. So how can Sweden help to overcome this situation?
No, thank you. Support for this country journey towards the European Union, ideally in the form of a full membership of the Union as soon as possible, is, I would say, the biggest priority for our embassy in Skopje. It has been for a long time, and it continues to be. And I would be the happiest Swedish ambassador ever if during my time here in Skopje, which is in the coming 3 years, there could be progress, substantive progress on this track, in this partnership and for North Macedonia. We do that on many levels. We provide political support. We continue to boost and support this country's journey in Brussels, in our capital, and also here in our dialogue with stakeholders here. So that's, if we will, on the political side. On the development cooperation side, because Sweden continues to have a relatively generous development program here in this country, and we can speak more about that soon, but the big priority of this program is indeed the European path, if you will. We work on energy, environment, good governance, we work on gender equality, we work on reform of institutions, we work on direct support to some of the actors involved, both civil society and governmental, in the European work. But we do that because we think it's important for the country, for Sweden, and for the Union itself. And then finally, I try to spend my days here in North Macedonia, not only when I travel around in May for an entire week, when I took the embassy on the road, but broadly every day. I try to speak with all the people I meet, students, youth, civil society organization counterparts, about European Union, what it is, and why this work and the relatively long process is worth it.
In a political aspect, I want to ask you this. Of course, our country should do some reforms, and that's known, and I think also the government officials are aware of it. But what can you say to government officials that probably sometimes are skeptical when it comes to a major issue, which is the relation with Bulgaria or changing the constitution as an issue that probably had blocked for the moment EU integration? How can you help as a Swedish ambassador, but not only as a country, to actually convey the message that integration is more important, and when you are part of the club, actually you can have more benefit?
Thank you so much, and thanks for mentioning reform, because the key to shortening and quickening this country's journey towards the European Union, if I would be asked to simplify it or say it in 3 words, I would say reform, reform, and reform. All countries around the world, Sweden, China, United States, and North Macedonia, need to get used to the idea that in a complex, fast-moving, and very competitive world, reform is not something that you do every once in a while. It's not an elective thing. It's something you do all the time to keep your society going, to keep them competitive and sustainable. So you need to reform, and you need those reforms that are a part of the EU package, and eventually the Copenhagen criterions, the acquis, the negotiations. But those very reforms, when it comes to governance, strong institutions, environmental issues, labor standards, legislation, those reforms that are related to the EU journey are also exactly those reforms that companies, investors, and financial institutions are also requesting in our countries. Strong, predictable, accountable institutions, for example. It's an EU-related reform, but it's also a reform that would improve the business climate, contribute to attract business, and something that Swedish and Nordic companies in our conversation with them are also asking for. And by the way, they are also the kind of issues that citizens, people, also would like to see. So instead of thinking reforms as a burdens, or sometimes when you listen to media, it sounds like something that is imposed by the European Union or coming from Brussels, or something that you tick up. You should see it as an investment in this country's future. And if it also contributes to the European and shortening and quickening the journey towards the European Union, then just better. But the reforms are worth something in themselves.
When I speak with people, because we are journalists and of course we communicate, they really want this, exactly what you described. But sometimes politicians are not delivering 100% due to this political debate, which I mentioned before. It has mostly to do with the relationship, with the identity, or with the discussion that our country has with the neighboring country. So, but nevertheless, this issue has also brought up some skepticals, people becoming more skeptical about EU integration. So what can you say to them, to young people, that you have to do what you have to do, and then most probably the benefits of being a member would come up?
Yes, I think you put it I think you put it nicely yourself here. These are reforms that you have to carry through, not because of the European Union, not because of Brussels, but because of the society that young people here, or those who are skeptical, would like to see in the future. A country that is this with strong economic growth, that attracts foreign investment, a country that can create employment and stable jobs, and a sustainable future for a future generation, where right now too large a proportion of the best and brightest of this country are, of course, choosing to seek their future elsewhere around in Europe right now. It's that the kind of future that you want to bring. So that would be my call would be to young people to simply demand reforms, demand action from their parents' generation, from our generation, but also from lawmakers and politicians. And the second thing I would say also, to encourage young people to get involved, to contribute themselves, join a political party, join a civil society organization, do the homework, read up, and be an actor in this one instead of a recipient of progress or not progress.
What do you believe? I mean, there is this common understanding right now that due to geopolitical situation, the enlargement door has opened, and a lot of countries from Western Balkans, they see the opportunity, probably Montenegro, Albania, of course North Macedonia as well. But do you think that the enlargement can happen and we're going to see a new country becoming an EU member until 2030?
Yes.
Okay. How are the chances North Macedonia to become one?
That depends largely on the actions and non-actions of North Macedonia, its governments, its people, its society, but of course also its dialogue with the European institutions, and indeed, as you alluded to before, its dialogue with its neighbors.
So what do you say to the politicians? It's clear what you say to people, but what do you say to politicians when you meet them? Should they do fast the constitutional changes and then make North Macedonia members after a few years?
On the issue of the constitutional amendments, there is an agreement between North Macedonia and the European Union, so that's very clear what they're saying on. What I say as an ambassador is that the European Union as a goal, it's important, it's strategic, the good choice to make, and that they will have substantial support along the way from the EU member states, including my country, Sweden, our embassy, and me personally on that journey, and now and going forward. And that's a message that I know is well received here. Our dialogue with the key ministries and ministers here is very strong, it's very open, and it's a good dialogue.
On this aspect, you mentioned NATO before, and I want to ask you again, how important it is to be part of the organization like NATO, like EU, when we have a world like we see in right now? And what kind of message you can give to authorities and people to understand that being a part of a group, actually, it's more important right now in the world?
As you said, you're stronger together. That's a tagline that's often used in relation to NATO, but you could also use it for the European Union, of course. We are stronger together. It's a win-win situation. A membership of NATO, of North Macedonia, strengthens North Macedonia's security, but it also strengthens NATO. The same when Sweden joined. Sweden became a safer and a stronger country as a part of NATO, but NATO also became, thanks to Sweden's considerable military strength and our strategic location, a stronger alliance. So the countries become stronger, the alliance becomes stronger, and the countries can contribute to making the alliance stronger. The same goes for the European Union. That's something I miss a little bit sometimes in the debate about the European Union. The European Union is a club that you join, but you join also not only to get benefits or get access to an internal market or EU programs or Erasmus and Interrail and Euro and Schengen, all that good stuff, that's included. But it's also an organization that you join and you contribute to. So perhaps an additional message to young people here, the European Union is a project that you can be a part, not only to be a part of, but also to shape the future of.
Yes, when you are inside, you probably can influence more. And in this context, from Sweden's experience, let's say, what kind of lesson can North Macedonia learn about being part, about being part of a larger organization, benefiting like NATO or EU? Maybe NATO is more tangible right now because, of course, our country is part of it. But what's your country's experience in that sense?
Well, maybe two things. One experience is that when Sweden joined the European Union, now it's 31 years ago. As I said, we are also an enlargement country. It was after a referendum with a relatively tight margin, but since then the support for the European Union has grown and it's consistently very strong. And it's no major political force or party or actor in Sweden now seriously entertains the thought of Sweden leaving the European Union. We're a very happy member of the European Union. We contribute to its work. My point here is that once you join, it's not so complicated. You see the benefits and you find a home in the European family. So that's maybe one thing, to focus more on the goal rather than the difficulties of getting there. The second thing I would say that being a part of an organization helps you widen your perspective a little bit. When we joined the European Union, we also became closer to our European neighbors, not only the Scandinavian, Baltic region that we are geographically close to, or our key trading partners such as the UK or the United States, but the whole of Europe. Sweden became, even more than before, a European country with our entry into the European Union. The same goes for NATO. We've taken a bigger perspective, a bigger responsibility, a bigger engagement, and also learned a lot along the way. Joining the European Union, joining NATO is also an opportunity for a country to grow, to learn, to exchange, to get information, to get lessons learned, to get impulses, but also to share perspectives and so and contribute. It's not a club where you join and you sit in the stands and watch. It's a team where you participate and you.
I believe your message is clear in that sense, that our politicians should understand more the importance of being a member rather than probably the steps that might be difficult or look difficult for a moment. But let's focus now in the last part of our conversation in bilateral relations again, because still North Macedonia is not part of the EU, and it is important to have a great relation, as you said, with a lot of countries, but especially with Sweden. So energy transition, digitalization, and green policies are becoming central to Europeans' agenda. So how can Sweden, for example, help in this aspect, not only in political aspect to integration, but to probably some practical aspect to it.
No.
So I know that your embassy works on these issues.
Yeah, good. And then for your listeners and viewers out there, so please follow us on social media for more information on what we do at the embassy. These are indeed 3 areas where we cooperate, where we feel that Sweden has certain experiences, our own historical experience, but digitalization and sustainability not least, and energy transition, where we feel that we have learned certain things, we have experienced the gains, and we have some capacities also in our private sector that we are keen to share with North Macedonia. That we are doing already through economic cooperation. We raise these issues and we talk about them in our ongoing dialogue with government here. But these are also 3 areas that feature prominently in our development cooperation with this country. So quite aside from having a dialogue about issues, our companies working together, these are also areas where Sweden substantially also contributes to work in this country, not least on the area of energy, which is also intimately linked to environmental issues and climate change and air quality, key issues where we work with partners here since many years.
We talk about the future. If I can put up a question like that, is looking ahead 5 to 10 years from now, what would you like Sweden and North Macedonia relations to look like? How would you see these relations of 2 countries as a part of the EU, or again good relations and probably out of EU yet?
Well, let's imagine then that because I've spent considerable time of my career in Brussels before, I like Brussels very much. So let's imagine that my next posting after Skopje, so in 5-6 years in the future, or 10 years, I find myself again in Brussels working for the Swedish mission to the European Union. I would very, very much like to go into a meeting room in the council building on Place Schumann in Brussels, and then sit down on a chair next to my dear Macedonian colleague representing North Macedonia in the Council of Ministers in the European Union. On that one, I would like to sit next to 2 members of the European Union. That would be on the more society side. I would like, as I said, the list of Swedish companies present here on the ground growing considerably. I would also like to see, ideally, a few or several Macedonian companies, startups, and also larger companies finding a foothold in Sweden as a bridge to the broader Nordic region, and finding inspirations and building more economic lists. And I would love the idea of even more tourism in both directions, but also from Macedonians to discover not only the big cities in Sweden, Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö, but also the fantastic nature and wilderness that we have in the north of Sweden, in the archipelagos on the both coast or on the islands in the Baltic Sea. Fantastic places that I think are still unknown to many places in this country and really beautiful.
This is a very probably very good way to round up our conversation, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you very much. And just before we go, of course, we see a very dynamic political scene here in North Macedonia. Is that a normal thing from European standards, or would you like to have more calm government and then focus only on the right agendas?
Well, politics is always interesting wherever you go, and so it has been indeed not only for myself, a relative newcomer in this beautiful country. I've been here for, as I said, a bit less than 1 year. To me, it has been a very intense, very interesting and very successful first year here in Skopje, but also a somewhat exhausting year with lots of work, lots of firsts, political and traveling around the country and so on. So I, for one, are also looking forward right now to a little bit of calm time over the summer, some holidays, spending time with family, watching the Football World Cup where Sweden are still in the tournament.
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask in the end. But yeah. Do you believe it can have a big success?
I try to moderate my expectations a little bit. We had a big success in the first game. We had a bit of a failure in the second game. Our third game on Saturday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning against Japan will be important. And I, for one, will be up in the middle of the night watching that game.
Okay, then let's hope it's going to be a success, and then we celebrate perhaps together here. Yeah,
it's a deal.
Why not?
It's a deal.
The Ambassador, thank you very much. I will leave you to this. We will leave the political scene to see what's going to happen after the summer holidays. Of course, you follow. There might be a reshuffling and new ministers, but then we're going to see how that goes later on. But I'm very happy that we did this conversation, and then we brought up some, let's say, out-of-the-box view on EU relation and, of course, the relation between two countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Të dashur ndjekës, do qëm kështu intervistën, bashkëbisedimi me ambasadorin e Suedisë këtu në vendin tonë. Sigurisht që podcasti RISHTAZI do të vi sërish me ju pas disa ditësh. Deri atëherë, mirupafshim.